Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are, and thanks once again for stopping by. One of you wrote me just a few days ago and made an inquiry. He was interested in whether I thought it was a wise thing for him to come down, buy a condo unit in the city while the prices are less expensive, and then rent it out for income on a full-time basis, or possibly on a short-term basis with some of the periods in between where he and his wife could come down and enjoy it themselves. And he asked about rates of return and all this sort of business. And I just responded to him really very simply. I said, if you're not coming down to live here, if you're going to be an absentee landlord living in another country, don't do it. I mean, that's my personal advice. I mean, you can welcome to do as you see fit. But really, seriously, it's not easy to find a property management firm that you can really expect to do much more than the very simple, basic stuff. You don't want complications. You don't want to be sitting somewhere 5,000, 8,000 miles or kilometers away worrying about what's happening to your property if there's been some sort of difficulty or whatever. So you don't want to have to get in a plane to come down if there's a legal problem that could have been dealt with so easily if you had been here. So I don't at all recommend that people try to do that. It just doesn't make sense to me, and I would say exactly the same thing to a Panamanian who was interested in purchasing a home for rental in the U.S., but who planned to stay here in Panama. No. Even with property management available in the U.S. and so on, it's pretty expensive. And you can find it here too, and it's pretty expensive. I'm just not sure. No, it just does not make any sense to me. You're not financially, whatever return you might get on it is lost to either the property management people or the problems that you have, or God forbid, a trip you have to take down in the middle of everything else that you hadn't budgeted for when you determined the rent. So he is now coming down to take a look. Instead, and I think much more wisely, he is looking at it as a property where the value of the condo can appreciate, because that's where we're at the moment. We have lower prices than we've had in the last few years, and we have reason, I talk more about this, as some of you already know, to an improvement in things in coming years. So now is a good time to buy, is what it boils down to. So he sees that. So he's thinking of coming down and simply purchasing at this stage a place where he and his family can come in and stay when they want to, and also to prepare for that point when they themselves may be coming down to Panama to live. And in the meantime, he'd have this place hopefully benefiting from appreciation. Well, we'll see. And that's a future nobody can tell you with any accuracy what the future holds. So, but it does seem as good a time as any to do something like that. So I just wanted to share that with you. It's not unusual for people to buy places and rent them out. I want to point that out. This is very, 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 very common. We don't have apartment houses as we have in the U.S. and Canada and many other countries, which are actually maybe 30 to 500 units, and one corporation owns the entire thing, and then they rent out the individual apartments, and all of them are rented, none of them are owned. No, we don't have that down here in Panama to speak of, and nothing of any significance. And exactly why, I don't know. It may have something to do with rent control laws that were passed years ago and so on, but I found absolutely zero enthusiasm for getting involved in that kind of operation here among people in real estate. So there aren't any. As a result, though, there is a big rental market, and these rentals are owned by individuals, and they're renting them out. And guess what? They're exactly the same reason this gentleman had written me. They wanted to make some income off that particular property. So there's absolutely nothing unusual about it at all. It is very common. It is not necessarily easy to find a renter. It depends on what you've got and so on. We'll talk to you if you ever get involved with it and come down. I can chat with you about it, but it depends on the price level and who you're looking for, what type of person. There are many different ways of dealing with it. But it can be done, and it is done by people who live here. And even if it's you live somewhere else in the country, you can get to Panama City pretty easily. in case of need. So some of the folks don't necessarily live in exactly the same location, or even 5-10 miles away from it. They may be 100 miles or 150 kilometers away, and that's okay. They'll just, if they have to, they come into town and they take care of any business that needs to be taken care of. So that's something to be thought about. I just wanted to share that with you. I took a break there just for a minute because I didn't like the rest of the tape there and I needed to change it. So it's what I'm doing right now. Didn't have it quite organized. So I'd like to just finish this up today by talking about something that is not specifically to do with buying to rent, but it will make the city a much more attractive place. It's causing comment right at the present time, so I thought I'd share it with you. I'll be talking about it again, assuming that it moves forward, and I suspect it shall. We have a new mayor. His name is Jose Fabrega, and Jose Luis Fabrega. And Mayor Fabrega has taken office, and he has taken a look at our coastal area in the city, and he wants to change it. Now, 6 decades ago, they tell me, there was a beach out in front of Panama City, and it was quite popular. People spent time there. Well, that's gone. And the water level off on the bay in front of the city is really very shallow. Let me show you a photo of what it looks like now. Okay, here we go. This is looking down the coastal area. That's the Cinta Costera on the right-hand side. This is added on, and is a marvelous place. All that greenery there. There's all sorts of sports facilities. All sorts of things happen there. Weekends are very busy. Sundays they close down the right-hand side and just let people take over. On the left is the older Balboa Avenue, which continues to operate on Sundays. So the whole thing doesn't shut down, it's just a portion thereof. It's a nice place, no question about it. People are quite happy who live in the condos off to the left. On the right, you see the bay, and as I say, it's very shallow water at that point. That's where one of the areas where the beach used to exist. Now here, let's take a look at another picture, pardon me. There we go. This is an artist's rendering using a photograph. On the left is the yacht club, which you couldn't see in that earlier photo. So that earlier photo was taken just to the right of the yacht club, down the beach, and, well, down the Cinta Costera. This is basically what it would look like if it were done. It extends, as you can see, a little bit further on, but that's good enough to give you a good idea of what's involved. The anticipated cost is $120 million. Of course, these things tend to creep up. But actually, as projects go in this country, that is small. We're much more familiar with billion-dollar projects here, or at least $600, $700, $800 million. So when you talk about $120 million, it's not that much. But what an impact it might have on the appearance of the city and its attractiveness to everybody, both for living there and its tourists and so forth. Now, we're very fortunate here in Panama because the Smithsonian Institution, which is one of the best scientific organizations in the world, has only one permanent facility outside the United States, and it's right down here in Panama, has been for decades, and it's their Tropical Research Institute. And they've already chimed in here. They're asked about it. They said, sure, this can be done. It's been done in other cities. You can take a look at it, but there's no reason why it cannot be done here. That's always encouraging to hear them say that. They won't go further. They don't get involved in the politics of it, but they're happy to advise as to how to go about doing it the most effectively and with environmental consciousness. So there you go. This particular rendering is passing around social media here, and I thought I'd share it with you because, why not? You might as well take a look at it too. And someday, well, they're talking, if he can move forward with it, we don't have any major problems coming up. He's aiming for 2022 to have it ready. That's pretty impressive if we can pull it off, but we've been known to do things like that. So even if it pulls into 2023, so what? I mean, it's not that far away, and it would be a dramatic change, and I think a very positive one that visitors and apartment owners and everybody else would truly appreciate. So, thank you for stopping by. I'll mention this project as it moves along. If it really doesn't run into major problems, and it does look like it's going to be happening, and we'll talk more about it in the future. Thanks for stopping by, and I look forward to seeing you the next time.